Okay, good evening. It's Wednesday night. That means another halacha and Tanya. We're up to now. Last time we're learning about, and then we're continuing about the dinim of brachas. You know, the order of brachas. You make a mistake. So today we're going to learn about what bracha comes before another bracha. For instance, you have in front of your place a whole fruit platter. And you're going to be eating some of the fruit. Now, some of them might be ha'etz, some might be ha'adama, some might be all ha'etz. The question is, what should I make a bracha on first? Okay, because I'm going to be eating a few things. Now, what do I make a bracha on first? So the answer simply is, right now, whatever you like better is what you make the bracha on first. For instance, if you're having apples, pears, grapes, pomegranates, dates, a whole bunch of stuff, and you want to eat an apple, because that's what you really like of all the other fruits, you make a bray pio eitz on the apple, and you don't have to make bray pio eitz on the other fruits because it was covered with the bracha you make on eitz. Now, what happens if they're all equal? You can eat from all of them. You don't really okay, thank you. Whoever wants to watch it could see what it is, the YouTube station. Okay. And what happens if somebody they're all equal to him? Okay, so then the din is like this. If it's from the fruits that Eretz Yisrael was praised with, and this is very important to know, because this pasuk that we're going to be saying now is a very important halacha in a lot of dinim about the order of brachas and so on. In other words, the pasuk says, Eretz chita u'sa'era, Eretz Yisrael is a land of wheat and barley, gefen, grapes, te'ena, figs, v'rimein, and pomegranates, Eretz zeis shemen udvash. It's a land of olives and honey, which means dates. So there's seven species that Eretz Yisrael is praised with: wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. These are the five things that Israel was praised with. So therefore, if I have a bunch of fruit, I forgot to mention something very, very important. Tonight's class, Dalit Shvat, the 4th of Shvat, is the yahrzeit of Jeff Meisel's father, Gershomesha ben Yehuda, and the Meisel family is sponsoring the class in his memory. He was from the first people when we started the show 42 years ago. That family was from the first people that came to the show. There's a wonderful yid, and there's Neshama Shirav and Aliyah.
Amen.
Anyway, coming back to this. So therefore, if one of the fruits, let's say you're eating apples, pears, grapes, other fruits, and you're going to be eating a bunch of them, and they're all equal to you, you should make a bray priya eitz on a grape. A grape, because that's one of the 7 species that Eretz Yisrael was praised with. There's 2 grains, wheat and barley, and then there's 5 fruits. So if you're eating the fruit platter and one of the fruits, and they're all equal, again, if you only like apples, or you like apples better than anything else, you make a eitz on the apples, and it covers everything else. You don't have to make a ha'etz on the grapes. But if they're all equal to you, and you're eating a whole bunch of fruit, and some of the fruit has the 5 fruits that Eretz Yisrael is praised with, again, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. So then the din is you make a bracha eitz on that. Okay? Now, what happens if you have fruits? By the way, what happens if you didn't make a bracha on the grape. You made a bracha on the apple, it's good. But l'chatchila, we want to give precedence of prominence and importance to things that are more important. If it's more important and you're eating a bunch of things together, you try to make a bracha on the more important thing, which in this case would be the fruits that Eretz Yisrael was praised with. What happened though, if somebody, another interesting din in this whole thing, that it's better to make a bracha on something complete rather than something which is a piece. So for instance, if you're going to have sliced pineapple, which is adama, and you're going to have a strawberry, which is adama, halachically it's better to make a bracha on the strawberry because it's whole, rather than a piece of pineapple, a slice of pineapple. Because whole, complete, is also more important, more prominent than a broken piece, than a piece, a cut up piece. So the best thing would be on a complete one. But again, if the fruits are all equal and by you they're all the same, then you make a bracha on the fruits of Eretz Yisrael. Now, what happens, and this is a very practical din, by the way. I'm going to be eating cake and drinking wine. I'm going to be eating cake and drinking wine. You go to a farbrengen, right? They're going to serve wine and they're going to serve cake. Or you come to a kiddush. What do you make a bracha on first? I'm not talking about Shabbos by kiddush. I'm talking the rest of the time, Shabbos if you're not making kiddush, or during the week. I'm eating cake and wine. So the din is you have to make a bracha on the cake first. If by mistake you made a bracha on the wine first, you still make a mezainis on the cake. But if you're sitting down and you want to do things correctly, you first make a bracha on the cake and then on the wine. Why? Because what's earlier in the pasuk has precedence. The pasuk starts off eretz chita u'seira, wheat and barley, and then geffen, then grapes. So therefore, and this is something that many people aren't aware of. You're sitting down to drink by a farbrengen, somebody's out there, serving you some wine and some cake. Halachically, you have to make a mezainis first on the cake, and then you make a bracha hagafen on the wine. What happens if you're eating bread from wheat and bread from barley? So then halachically, wheat comes first because it's first in the pasuk. Wheat is a more prominent food than barley. In fact, interestingly, the Gemara says wheat is human food and barley is animal food. So we're all animals. We all eat barley in the cholent. We all eat barley. But the Gemara says chita meichel adam. Wheat is human food, and barley, the Gemara says meichel behema is what animals eat. But the problem, humans eat it too. So if you're having wheat and barley, so then wheat comes first before barley, because then the pasuk is first. If I want to eat grapes or figs, so again, what does the pasuk say? Chita, wheat, barley, grapes, and then figs, and then pomegranate. So again, if I'm eating figs and a pomegranate, I should make a bracha 8 on the fig before the pomegranate. If I'm eating grapes, dates, and pomegranates, I should make 8 on the grape because grape is first in the pasuk. But here comes an interesting halacha, because the Torah says like this: Eretz, the land of wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, and then the Torah says Eretz, zeis, shemen, udvash, a land of olives and dates. Now, the word Eretz is mentioned twice in the pasuk. At the beginning, Eretz chita u'seira gefen u'teina v'rimein. And then 5 things under the first eretz. And then it says eretz zeis shemen udvash, a land of olives and dates. So the Gemara learns this, what it says in Shulchan Aruch. Whatever is closest to the word eretz comes first. So for instance, first is barley, wheat, then barley. Okay? Now, then you have in the 5 fruits, if you count from the second eretz, you have olives, dates, and then you have figs, which is third from the first pasuk, and I'm sorry, grapes. It's grapes, not figs. Then figs, then pomegranates. So the order, if somebody wants to know what is the order of the fruits, in other words, I'm going to eat them all. I want to make a bracha on one of them, but which one comes first? The order of the 5 fruits, not the 7 species, is olives, then dates, then grapes, then figs, and then pomegranates. And again, we'll mention it in the order of the 5 fruits: olives, dates, grapes, figs, pomegranates. But what happens if somebody is drinking wine and eating olives? Now, gefen, which is grapes and wine, is the third from the beginning. Eretz chita u'seira gefen. But because wine is special, wine comes before olives. So if somebody is drinking wine and eating olives, you make first hagafen on the wine, and then you make ha'etz on the olives.
Versus grapes.
Versus grapes, yes. Olives comes before grapes. If somebody is drinking wine and grapes, you still make a bracha on the wine first, because wine has a special, unique bracha. But in the order of the fruits is, again, you have olives, then dates, then grapes, then figs, and then pomegranates. But again, if you like pomegranates more than anything else, you make a ha'etz on the pomegranates. They tell a story that the non-Hasidic people in the time of the Tzemach Tzedek, the Misnagdim, they heard that the Tzemach Tzedek was very, very scholarly. So they wanted to test the Tzemach Tzedek to see what he knew. So they made a massive fruit basket with every possible concoction of a doubt of a bracha. They put in whole fruits, half fruits, antisaltica fruits, barley, wheat, it was a big concoction. And they wanted to see what the Tzemach Tzedek is going to make a bracha on. Tzemach Tzedek takes a fruit, which according to the order of halacha had no bearing whatsoever, and he made ha'etz on it. And they said to him, yeah, come on, yeah. He said, are you crazy? I want to eat this. That's why I made a bracha on. I don't want to eat everything else. I don't have to make a bracha on a grape if I don't want to eat a grape. I want to eat an apple. I'm making an ha'etz on the apple. That's all. We said if everything is equal and you're eating a bunch of this stuff, then you go in that particular order. Okay. Next is like this. This din of trying to make a bracha on the more prominent stuff is only when they're in front of you at the time you're making a bracha. But let's say there's apples in front of you now, and soon they're going to bring grapes, and you're going to be eating the grapes. You don't have to wait for the grapes to come to make a bracha ha'etz on the apple, to make a bracha ha'etz on the grapes. If the apple is here now and the grapes aren't, and you're going to be eating apples and grapes, but the grapes are not in front of you, you can make ha'etz on the apple, and that covers the grapes also, because you have in mind that you're going to be eating the grapes. Now, in addition to that, let's discuss a little bit the order of different brachas. What comes first? For instance, there are general brachas, and then there's detailed brachas. For instance, Bari Priya Eitz is for everything that grows on a tree. Then you have a bracha Bari Priya Adama, which goes for everything that grows on the ground, which basically includes trees also, because trees are also from the ground. Then you have a more general bracha, Shahakol Niya Bidvari, includes everything. Everything was made from God's mouth, from God's words. Then you have wine is a unique bracha. That's more detailed bracha. Bread and cake, hametzi mezenis, is more detailed. So the din is, if you're eating a whole bunch of stuff, you're eating ha'adama, ha'etz, shahakol, mezenis, you try to make the more detailed bracha first, and then go to the general, more general bracha, meaning as follows. If you're going to eat a banana and an apple, okay, banana is adama, that's the halacha, way we paskin, banana is adama, and apple is eitz. Now I need to make two brachas, one for the banana, one for the apple. Now what should I make first? Ha'etz on the apple or adama on the banana? So halacha says you should, if you're eating both of them, you should make a bracha first on the apple, because that is a more detailed bracha. It doesn't cover the banana. The banana would cover the apple too, technically. If somebody made ha'adama on an apple, they're good, because an apple comes in the ground. But if somebody made it a ha'adama on a banana, and then they decided to eat the apple, they have to make ha'etz on the apple, because they didn't make a ha'adama on the apple. In other words, like this: if somebody by mistake made ha'adama on an apple, or a grape, or cake, and according to the way we pass it, even bread, if somebody by mistake took a loaf of bread, a piece of bread, and they made Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam bari pri Adam. Even though it's a machlekes and all we hold, you are yaitza the bracha of on the bread. You don't have to make another hametzi. Why? Because bread comes from the ground. If somebody made adama on an apple, a grape, figs, dates, anything, then by mistake they made adama on the apple itself, on the grape itself, you don't have to make another bracha, because all you'd be doing is making a bracha in vain. Because the eved, after the fact, ha'adama is good for an apple. But if somebody's eating a banana and an apple, and they made ha'adama on the banana, you still have to make ha'etz on the apple, because you didn't make the ha'adama doesn't cover the ha'etz. Therefore, if you're eating the ha'etz and ha'adama, you should first make the bracha ha'etz. Yeah, but we want to be more detailed in the bracha. It's only b'di'evid, in order not to make a bracha in vain, because if somebody makes ha'adama on ha'etz ha'adama on an apple, and they're not eating anything else, and they're going to make now a new ha'etz, they're making one of the two brachas is in vain. But if I ate a banana and made a ha'adama on the apple and the banana, and now I'm eating an apple, and I need to make ha'etz, it's not a bracha in vain, because it's a separate fruit, a separate bracha. So therefore, if you're eating, let's say, fruits of ha'etz and fruits of ha'adama, and they're all equal to you, you should make a bracha first, ha'etz, and then the ha'adama. If you're eating cake, fruits, and orange juice, the order of the brachas would be first mezenis on the cake, Then you make ha'etz on the apple or banana, whatever, hadama ha'etz, and then you make a shahakal. Even though if I made a shak on the orange juice, I would still need to make another bracha on the apple and on the cake, but still it's preferable to do it in a way that you do the more detailed bracha that covers that particular object, and then you go to the more general bracha. Okay? So these are the dinim of the order of brachas. Okay, so the 7 species come first. Now, the reason why Shabbos is different, we just said, halachically, you need to make a mezainis first and then a berei pri hagafen. Because in the pasuk, wheat comes before grapes. Wheat is number 1, grapes are number 3. So really, somebody should, normally when you eat, like we said, cake and wine, first you have to make a mezainis on the cake, and then you make hagafen on the wine. That's the proper way of doing it. So why by Kiddush Friday night and Shabbos day, don't we do that? First we make Kiddush, berei pri hagafen, and the bracha, and then we eat the cake, which is mezainis. Why don't we make the mezainis before the hagafen, which is in the order of the pasuk? And the answer is very simple. You're not allowed to eat before Kiddush. And because you're not allowed to eat before Kiddush, you can't make a bracha on the cake before you drink the wine, because you're not allowed to eat before you make Kiddush. So you have to first make a berei pri hagafen. In fact, one of the reasons, there's a few reasons. One of the reasons why we cover the challah, one of the reasons if you make Kiddush Shabbos day, it's machlekes, but many people hold you should cover the cake. Why should you cover the cake or the challah? So one of the reasons is because really the hametzi comes first, but you're not allowed to eat before Kiddush. So therefore you have no choice. You have to make a berei pri hagafen, but not to embarrass the cake and not to embarrass the challah. So what you do is you cover it as if to say it's not here. So we're not embarrassing it. But during the week or even on Shabbos, if you're not making Kiddush, Shabbos afternoon, you're drinking wine and cake, went to Fabreng, whatever. Halachically, you have to make a berei minei mezainis first, and then you make a berei pri hagafen. Okay. Let's go again to the next dinim over here. Okay. If somebody made a mistake in a bracha, somebody made a mistake. What do you do? So the logic behind the din, the rule of the din is, if you made something which is incorrect, you have to make over a new bracha. For instance, if somebody said a berei pri ha'etz, now I'm not going to use the word mashal of a banana. Banana is a different thing. If somebody's going to make ha'etz on a potato that's cooked, that's a lie. A potato doesn't come from a tree. So you can't make ha'etz on a potato because it's not true. So therefore, if by mistake somebody made ha'etz on a potato, the bracha is not valid. You have to make a new bracha. You have to say Baruch Shem Kavod Nachutz Le'olam V'od, because you made a bracha in vain, and you have to make the proper bracha. What happens if somebody don't made, like we said before, ha'adama on an apple, on a grape? So that's not a lie. A tree comes from the ground. So therefore, yes, even though the Chachamim, when they instituted bracha, said tree fruits should have their own unique bracha, but the bottom line is you're not lying. You're not lying because it does come from the ground. So the general bracha is good. In fact, if somebody made on a grape You're supposed to make ha'etz on a grape. What happens if somebody took a grape and made the bracha b'rei pri hagafen by mistake? Instead of making a b'rei pri ha'etz, because it grows on the vine, a tree, they made b'rei pri hagafen, what you're supposed to make on wine. Shulchan Aruch says b'diavad it's good. Why is it good? Because the fact is, wine is, the grape is pri hagafen. It's the fruit of a vine. It's not the correct bracha on it. You're supposed to make ha'etz, because only wine has its unique bracha of b'rei pri hagafen. But by mistake, if it's not a lie, if it's not incorrect, then you don't make a new bracha, because then you're saying extra brachas in vain, God forbid, which is not good. So again, therefore, it's like this. What happens if somebody made ha'adama and anything that grows from the tree? B'diavad, it's yaitza. They don't have to make another bracha. Not only that, we said before, if somebody on bread by mistake makes a b'rei pri ha'adama, it's good. B'diavad. If somebody made on bread borei mine mezainis, bread is mezainis, it fills you up, so you don't have to make hametzi again. Unless if you realize within a second, you said borei mine mezainis, and you realize, right, so you say hametzi lechem min. So you don't make a new bracha, you just say hametzi lechem min. But, and now, if somebody, and therefore, sometimes, by the way, what happens if you don't know if something comes from the tree is our eitz or adama? You don't know. A berry, certain berries are eitz, certain berries are adama. I don't know. And there's no way you're finding out. So Shulchan Aruch says, what should you do? You make a b'rei pri adama, because you're safe. If it's adama, it's good. And if it's eitz, it's good because it comes from the ground. Then you have another case. Halacha says, and we'll finish with this. What happens if you made a shahako? The din is shahako covers everything. Everything. If by mistake somebody made shahako on bread, it's good enough. They don't have to make another bracha. They made it on cake, they made it on fruit, they made it on vegetables, whatever. The din is, it's good, because shahako, dia bidvari, covers everything, even wine, even bread, everything. But lechatchila, you need to know what the bracha is and make the following bracha. And the fact we were speaking the other week about rice, because rice is a machlekes, is it adama, is it mezainis or whatever, the Alter Rebbe says you make a shahako, because shahako covers it. So these are some of the concepts. It might sound a little confusing, but when you think of the logic behind it, then everything makes sense, and then it all fits in of the logic of why the halacha is the way it is. Okay, we're going to go to Tanya now.